Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
All right, welcome everyone. This is entitled the 401k Safety Net. We have a small group here in Louisville, Kentucky. We're doing this live, and as well, if you're watching this on computer, this is our webinar version as well of the 401k Safety Net. This picture is a picture of actually my granddad. This picture was taken, we think, back in the 50s. If anybody out there is watching this is from nobody worked at Bell South here, I assume. If anybody used to work at Bell South, they might say, oh, I recognize that equipment, Tony. That was in 1960 or whatever. Let us know. But that is a picture of my granddad. He was with Bell South from 1932 all the way to 1978. He had about a 2 or 3 year stint where he worked with a TV station in Lexington. But that's where he worked all of his life. I don't know if some of you all might have related to this, but that back in 1932, when you landed a good gig with an employer, you didn't go anywhere. Number one, jobs were scarce, and secondly, something back then these big employers used to promise you was something called a pension plan. Now, if you're younger folks watching this, you probably don't even know what a pension plan is. A pension plan, my granddad called it mailbox money, but a pension plan was a guarantee from your employer that if you worked long enough, kept your nose clean, and then retired one day, you would get this regular guaranteed income for the rest of your life. Our process, we call it the Worry-Free Retirement, and a lot of it was born out of me watching my granddad. My parents divorced when I was young. I spent a lot of time with my granddad. I personally remember when he retired, he came home and told his wife that he was going to retire. And about 2 weeks later, he was done. It was just so interesting to watch him just sit home and drink coffee, and back then smoke Marlboro cigarettes all day long. That's about all he did. Work on a car, tinker around. Spent a lot of time with him, and he was literally worry-free. No debt. No credit cards. Remember, this was 1978. No cell phones, no cable TV, no going out to eat, no traveling. He and Hazel stayed home. They spent very little money. Health insurance was paid for 100% back then. Did I mention free long distance? Again, the young people going, what's long distance? That was a huge deal in 1978 as a former Bell South employee. And then finally, no concerns over Social Security. So he had mailbox money from Social Security, pension from his employer, mailbox money, paid for health insurance, no debt, no bills to speak of, pretty worry-free until his death in the late 90s. So this is the key. Let's talk about this. Most people are worried about retirement. One of the number one fears is running out of money in retirement. Healthcare cost. A gentleman that just came in earlier, we were talking long-term care. You know, years ago, people didn't worry about nursing homes. Now it's a huge, huge concern and a potentially huge, huge devastating cost. One of the keys is this one right here. Granddad did not have to worry about outliving his money. Why? Because he had mailbox money. Again, mailbox money is defined as guaranteed income you can never outlive. We clear on that? Granddad had it, no worries. Look at some of the other things. Granddad didn't have to worry about the taxation of his money, and that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the 401k Safety Net. See, before 1978, there wasn't even such a thing as a 401k plan. Not even an issue. Granddad would have never have even probably considered a 401k because it had investment risk. It was in the stock market. My granddad never bought a stock in his life. Was very conservative, had fear of the stock market, quite frankly. So the 401k also introduced this concept of risk because really 401ks, not only do they have taxes built into them, we'll show you that in a minute, but they also have risk. Anybody remember 09, 08, 09? Okay. So I met somebody the other day, they lost 80% of their money. They were in all that high-tech stuff. But on average, people lost 30 to 40% of their wealth. Could we go through something like that? Who knows? We'll talk about that in a minute. And finally, this is really interesting. When you think about the concept of a pension, you work all your life and retire, you get that pension, it starts immediately, and you're done planning. No further planning, and I think this is a key with savers. We work with savers. No further planning. All Granddad did was go out to the mailbox once a month, get his check, Make sure he didn't spend more than the check. It wasn't that complicated. People are writing books and making millions of dollars on this. Folks, it's not that complicated. Just don't spend more than you make and you'll be fine. This is really not complicated, which Granddad didn't. So let's think about this. So now, people, you're faced with taxes. I call it the tax tumor. You'll see this in a minute. You're faced with risk in the stock market. No safety net there. You don't have any mailbox money. We'll show you how to get that, though. We do have a solution for that. And then finally, Wall Street, who controls your 401k, really doesn't want you taking this money. You don't believe me? Call them and ask about drawing out money. Remember, Wall Street makes fees on your money. The longer you leave that money in your 401k, the more money they make. So they're not interested in you use and enjoy this money. The Worry-Free Retirement is. This is your money. We want you to be like Granddad. We want you to be able to use it. Now, one reason we mention in our promotion of this that if you're near age 59 or over 59 and a half, this is a key age. Very key age in setting up a 401k safety net. Years ago, I entered into a program called Elite IRA Advisors, conducted by Mr. Ed Slott, a well-known author and CPA. I was the first group of advisors that went through his classes, and this was the first thing I learned, and I didn't know about this. And I'd been doing planning for years. I discovered that many of the plan documents that govern the 401k have something in there called a non-hardship in-service withdrawal. So even if you're watching this program right now and you're saying, well, I'm 59 and a half, what does that even mean? What this means is, if you're over the age of 59 and a half, and our offices will be happy to check this for you, your plan document that governs the 401k, 90% of them do, say that even if you're still working at your current employer, and the reason this age is also important, a lot of you are thinking about retirement, you may be thinking, man, I'm kind of nervous about the stock market right now, and I don't have any really safe options. I don't have any 401k that gives me mailbox money. Can I move out of this thing? And the answer is, even if you're still employed, in many cases, yes. All right? So let's talk real quickly about old money, new money. New money is the money you're contributing to the 401k plan. Does that make sense? Assuming you have a 401k plan. Old money is the money that's just sitting there that's already been contributed. So let's say you contribute $8,000 a year to your 401k, you get 0.5% of that match, so $4,000 for the employer, that's your new money. We don't suggest you stop that necessarily, although I probably wouldn't put above the match, as we're going to see in a minute. But it's the old money. Let's say you have $300,000 in a 401k. Why wouldn't you consider rolling that out into something you can control, especially if you're 59 and a half or older? If your document allows for this, which most of them do, we can do this. And this is the purpose of the workshop. And now I'm going to tell you why you may want to consider doing it. All right, so let's talk about the first problem, the tax tumor. What in the heck is a tax tumor? Well, let's boil it down to health. If you went to the doctor and the doctor says, Tony, I just noticed you've got a tumor and it's malignant. You got one of two choices. You can either tell the doc to get it out of there, which is going to be painful and costly, or actually the easiest thing to do is ignore it. Wouldn't you agree? Less painful. But if you ignore it, it eventually is going to grow and it's going to kill you. What I like to say about the 401k, believe it or not, a lot of that money in there, a good percentage of it, depending on your tax bracket, is really not your money. Again, that's why we call it a tumor. It's cancerous. And it's really the IRS's money. So here's an example of somebody with $200,000, assuming their bracket is 35% federal and state, which if they liquidated this is what it would be. So what's the difference, right? And they ask for a check. Send me a check in the mail. I'm ready to get out of this thing. I want my money. Had somebody the other day that came in for an appointment. We're going to have to liquidate their 401k. They have so much debt that I did an analysis on it. Actually, to pay the debt off is cheaper than just going on dealing with the tax. So we are going to intentionally take the tax hit because the debt and the credit card interest is so high. Generally, you don't run into this, so I recommended doing that. And I reminded them the government's going to take about $25,000 out of that $100,000. So folks, if you've got a 401k plan, you have a tax tumor and you can't get out of it. Unlike the good news is if you have a tumor and die, all right, at least your family doesn't inherit the tumor, right? You're dead. The problem with this darn thing is when you die, the tumor gets passed on to your family. You cannot avoid it other than leaving it to charity. Now we can mitigate it. We can reduce the tax tumor through the planning process. This is why you want to consider rolling your 401k out now so we can plan around it. And then the problem is so people just put it off or they don't know it exists. So we fast forward and you look at that and you go, gosh, $864,000, that's a lot of money. I don't have anything to worry about, right? No, yeah, you do have something to worry about because the tax tumor just grew from 70,000 to over 300,000 in this example. So it's not going away. You have to be proactive. This is why we recommend people, if it's available, get that 401k out of there, get it into our hands so we can plan accordingly and invest accordingly. You know, a lot of people are trying to predict what's going to go on with Wall Street. I've been in business since 1984. I've seen 5 major downturns every 7 years. They've happened. Now, some of them worse than others, but if you go back in time, can you imagine? You've got to put yourself in the shoes that you're getting ready to retire. Remember, this is geared towards people 59 and a half or older. Okay, retirement is probably right around the corner. The question is not if this is going to happen, it's when. Now, I don't know when it's going to happen. I can't time the market, but you have to ask yourself, if I've got all my money in the stock market and we go through another 08 and I lose 42%, and keep in mind what? You still got taxes. So you still have the loss plus the taxes, and then Wall Street's been charging fees along the way. This is a great deal, isn't it? Isn't this sounding good? It's amazing how did, Wall Street's got all this money in 401ks, and you really think about it, how did they garner so much money? Because this is really not the best practice in the world because of the taxes, all right? So we're not trying to predict what the market's going to do. We're just reminding you that it can and eventually it will go through turbulent times. It's done it consistently, in this case, every 7 years. Now, is there a product to mitigate the downturn? In other words, if you're near retirement, is there some piece of money we can carve out to say this has to be protected? I cannot continue to have this money at risk, and yes, there is. Back in the late 90s, I was still managing money back then, they introduced a product called fixed indexed annuities. And these products are actually very ingenious, and let me show you this graph to show you what happens. So what we did, we actually went back into 1998, and these were actual returns of the S&P 500, okay? See those red? Whenever you see red, that doesn't mean that's a good thing. That means down. Thank you, sir. Now, if you'll notice, we're going to talk about person A and person B. Person B is in the stock market. Person A is in the stock market. Person B is going to invest their money in one of these new fixed indexed annuities, or what I call hybrid annuities. Now, by the way, folks, a lot of people are starting to sell these products. The gentleman and I were talking earlier. We've been using these extensively since 9/11. We have written well over 2,000. We understand how these products work. So if you're either looking at an annuity, recently purchased annuity, thinking about buying an annuity, been to a dinner seminar recently pitching these products, give us an opportunity to take you through this process before you do anything, because we can show you how to use these products very effectively. But look at this. Everything's great after the first year. We see a 19% return. You have $192,000. Now we come over to the indexed annuity, which only pays 1% of the market. An indexed annuity is not going to make large returns. That's not what it's for. It's meant to make 1% of the market, all right? So granted, that first year, person B doesn't have as much money as person A, but here's the key. Look at the next 3 years when the market dropped. Now visualize yourself getting ready to retire, and this is going on while you're thinking about retiring or just retired. That'd even be more of a nightmare, wouldn't it? You've just retired, you can't go back to work, they've already given a 30-year-old your job, you're done. And all of a sudden the market goes down 3 years in a row. Look at that, you've gone from 160 to 114,000. Plus, what if you were taking income out of this? That would really get ugly, because now you'd be down, way down, right? But look at the fixed indexed annuity. When it went down, we only kept our floor. We didn't lose anything. So this 174,000, look at that, stays level. So in this case, 0% return is actually your best friend. You might say, well, I could have put the money in the bank at that. Yeah, but then you would have missed out on the 8%, the 11%, and the 4%. Look at the difference. We've got $203,000 with no risk versus $155,000 with all this risk. So the fixed indexed annuity is geared towards savers, and it is the only contractual guaranteed product that will link to the market, guaranteed when the market goes up to 1%, but cannot lose when the market goes down. Very, very great tool. Now, our worry-free retirement, the reason we're talking about things like safety nets and all the other types of topics we'll be covering on different webinars is we have a different philosophy than most people. Most advisors will tell you to save, and they tell you to save more, and they tell you to save more. And legitimately, there are concerns and fears out there, but at some point, what we've found is you've got to enjoy your money while you can. So I devised something called the 3 halves of life. And I want you to look at this graphic. The first half of life, this obviously the younger folks, and there's no magical age. We usually say this is generally between 25 and about 50. This is the years you're working hard, you're saving hard, and you need to save, right? Generally say, how much should I be saving, Tony? If you can, I always recommend, if you're a young person, save at least 15% of your gross annual income. So if you make $100,000, you and your spouse, you should be putting away somewhere $15,000 per year. And if you're on the younger side, we can show you some different ideas that can help you with that. That'll give you a lot better tax planning than these 401k plans. Don't throw all your money in a 401k plan if you're young. At least talk to us about some tax diversified things we can do. But that's the first half, okay? The blue represents the net worth. That's the growth maybe of your investments. Now here's the key. What most people would tell you to do, I call this halftime. See this couple in the middle? You know, in their mid to late 50s, early 60s. I'm in this realm right now. These are the years. Now again, keep in mind, folks, I have over 2,000 clients. I've probably met with 10,000 people over the years, at least 10,000 if you had everybody all about. What I see time and time again is people in this age range are afraid to spend money. And I'm like, why? Anybody watching this program, anybody know of anybody that's died in their late 50s, early 60s? We just talked about that. Anybody know anybody that retired and the day or two after they retire, they die? It happens, folks. So this is a key. While you can enjoy your money, what the Worry-Free Retirement says, let's figure out a way to enjoy it. But now you got to be careful, because if you enjoy too much of it, you could run out, right? We make sure that's not going to happen. So there's a mixture. We use brokerage accounts through Charles Schwab. By the way, we're not affiliated with Schwab, but I'm a registered investment advisor, a fiduciary. We use the registered investment accounts that I use through Schwab. And then we also use the fixed indexed annuities. Why do we put the fixed indexed annuities in? Because you can't run out of money. So when you move into the second half of life, and generally that's around age 70, that's when, quite frankly, people start slowing down. I met a couple the other day, they're in their late 70s. They're hardly spending anything. And I asked the obvious question, why are you not spending anything? Because we don't do anything, right? You know, we talked about the recent terrorist attacks and all that. A lot of people are not traveling across the country at age 78. They're too old for that, and they don't want the hassle. Or the thought of being blown up doesn't excite them as well. So what happens is, even though your accounts have gone down over the years, we have a backstop. We have that mailbox money, and that's where the income can never run out. You can never run out with the fixed indexed annuities. So the concept is not keep hoarding the money. Give it away, spend it, put it in trust. We can help you with all these types of ideas, but change the paradigm here. Quit trying to stockpile so much money to a point in time where you can't even enjoy it. It makes no sense whatsoever. So for those of you who decide to meet and say, Tony, we'd like to go through this process with you. I would like to consider rolling over my 401k now. I would like for you to call. Can you even check for me to see if it's even eligible? We'll do all of that. I have a great staff that can handle all of this for you. But the first thing we're going to do when you meet with me, we're going to clarify your vision. Okay, I'm going to bring up the example of the young lady recently that I'm going to have her liquidate her 401k. She wants to retire. She's 62. I said, how badly do you want to retire? She said, I got to get out of there. I cannot stand what I'm doing anymore. She's burned out. But she had always been led to believe, don't touch the 401k. So my question to her was, how important is it to retire? She said, so I said, so if we had to liquidate the 401k, now keep in mind she also has a pension, that's her trump card. If we had to liquidate the 401k in order to help you retire, would you be willing to liquidate it? She said, of course. So remember, folks, there's no right or wrong answer to every situation. You have to dive into this, and this is where it starts, clarifying your vision with a well-trained, well-seasoned retirement specialist that can figure out how to help you clarify what the heck we even want to do here. At this point, it's really not about the money. It's how do we use and enjoy and protect it. That's really what this is about. Then the next thing we'll do, after we clarify your vision, I'll have a second appointment with you, and I'll provide an assessment. Personally, I've still not seen anything like this, and I see a lot of assessments. You will get a full binder assessment. This is absolutely free. There's no cost or obligation. I'll meet with you at your second appointment, go through the entire thing. Included in this is our proprietary income software that I developed. I think it's the best software out there to help you understand what you've got and then how you're going to use it. So you'll get this binder absolutely free, and you can take that with you. Now, why do I like for people to take that with them? Because I want to make sure they understand it. Anybody ever bought anything in here and you realize after you bought it you really didn't understand what the heck you were doing? Okay, I've done that. It's a terrible feeling. So we want you to take that with you, and then the next step is not for me to commit to it. I mean, I've already committed to helping you. You got to commit to the game plan, but we want you to be committed to the game plan. It's your game plan. We want you to feel like you're in control. Now, this is a key point. This is an intimidating process. Some of you might be saying, well, I'd love to roll over my 401k, Tony. The thought of even what to do on this thing scares me to death. I don't know who to call. I don't know if there's any taxes. I don't know if there's any fees to get out of it. I don't even know what to do. In fact, you may be sitting there saying, well, I did check once, and the last time I checked with my 401k about rolling it over, they drove me crazy. That came up the other day. We had them call to see if they could roll over their 401k. The company has driven them crazy because they're afraid they're going to move it out. Folks, this whole game of money with financial institutions, there's only so much money flying around. Everybody's vying for your money. So if the alarm bells are going to sound off when we make these calls. But that's okay. They're going to try to keep the money, and that's perfectly legally to do. But we'd like to see you move it to us, quite frankly. We think we can do a much better job. We will implement the game plan. So we'll move all the money for you. We'll fill out all the applications. We'll make sure everything's set up properly. If we have to open up a Charles Schwab account, we do all that. There's absolutely no out-of-pocket costs to do this. If we do an annuity or life insurance, we get paid a commission from the company. No out-of-pocket cost to you. You let them pay us. If we open up a Charles Schwab account, no upfront cost. We charge quarterly in arrears on our fees. Our fees are only 60 basis points for a managed account. That's lower than anybody out there. Plus, through Schwab, we use all of their no-fee accounts. ETFs, stock trades are very minimal. So I guarantee if you're sitting out there right now and somebody's managing an IRA or something, I guarantee we can save you a lot of money in fees each year. We'd like to prove that to you. And then finally, our obligation is to monitor things. So if you need to meet with me in person, if you have to call our staff, we have great staff. Anything you need, you let us know, and we never charge a fee to meet in person, to modify your game plan, whatever we need to do for you. If there's a death, we help you with all the beneficiary forms. We do all that at absolutely no cost to you. Now, for those of you who decide to meet, there's the personal profile we talked about. If you're watching this online, there's not going to be a personal profile. You would just go to the Meet with Tony button, and online that will give you a very similar form to fill out. There's also a starter kit that's available. We would like to first talk to you, and then we will send you the starter kit. So when you fill out the personal profile online, you'll hit submit. That'll go to our offices. It's all confidential. We will follow up, and if a meeting's necessary, I will meet with you in person. Same way with you all. If you have a question, if you ever call in, our staff will figure out if we can try to help you over the phone. If not, we'll have a personal appointment with me in either our Bowling Green or Louisville office. If you're watching this up in the northern Kentucky area, Trey would meet with you, my son-in-law, up in the northern Kentucky area. And I do come up there occasionally. I'll be happy to follow up with you as well if you are in northern Kentucky, so you can talk with me personally. All right, any questions at all about the presentation? Anything at all? Everything covered pretty well? All right, so folks, I hope you've enjoyed watching this webinar. Again, go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on the Meet with Tony button, or call our offices anytime at 877-499-9255. Thank you very much.